Dr. Jesse Duquette.
I just want to thank the community and y'all for enforcing the zoning ordinance in regard to Deputy Big Shot LC. I'm speaking in regard to multiple unzoned commercial gun ranges located at Tiny Timbers or Deputy Big Shot LLC at 214 West Deputy Pike and Deputy Pike. Per their website, which is www.deputybigshot.com, they have a 15 to 100 yard pistol and rifle range with 10-lane shoot house and over the hill 100 to 500 yard open air long range. And this is a direct quote from their.
Dr. Duquette, before you proceed, this is really a matter that's handled by the Planning and Zoning Board committees, and the commissioners ourselves don't address this. It's separate, and I know it's being handled. The zoning enforcement officer has acted with a letter, and the issue's really settled there. They have their own attorney to handle that thing, but
well, our issue is that we keep being basically told this person needs to deal with this committee needs to deal with this. And yes, that letter got one step done, but when I was called and informed it was handled, I was also told that they could continue to do what they want to do. And my issue is, and I have copies, that somebody needs to listen to us, and it needs to go on record that, this was built and functioned. The community knew about it. Officers were going to train there, and nobody did anything about it until we wrote a letter. And then that wasn't even going to be dealt with until I called a whole bunch of people. And once that letter was presented, or the enforcement went out, they still said, but they can still continue. I have 7 children that play there that I cannot let to play outside anymore. I have a son coming back from the service who served with the 82nd Airborne, who was an MP, changed to infantry, fought 9 months, it was national news, some of the battles he fought. And he has to come home to the safe zone of hearing explosives. And I also have a granddaughter, a 1-year-old. Something needs to be done about this other than, unless they don't take money, they can continue. That is not an answer. When there's a ricochet and it kills one of these children, and you're going to look at the pictures, who's going to answer? How are we going to give America's best community? Because that's going to make the news. Somebody, you can't tell me we can't do this here, and then I have to go someplace else, because everybody is telling me that. And the ball is not going to be dropped with my children.
There is a due process involved, and it's going to be involved with the planning and zoning and enforcement there. They have an attorney, and that's how the process has to be. All the way, no matter how this proceeds, it'll be handled through that department. And
the big thing that we want to come across is that it's important for the community to know what's going on. So if people are invited with no fee to a gun range that's an LLC, that they're aware that if they're injured or shot, that they're probably not going to be insured. That is, I was going to go ahead and read through this a little bit, and I just kind of want it basically on record so that the community is aware that if they want to go to this gun range, that basically that they're at risk, that if they're injured, that they cannot possibly be in compliance. The big thing I just wanted to point out is that as this proceeds or as it goes forward, a square mile is 640 acres. The effective range of a 50 caliber rifle is 250 yards. 2,500 yards, that's like 25 football fields. That's over, 2 miles. and if they're operating on only 100 acres with another business and multiple, houses, that's not even 100 acres, that, what other laws or compliances are being ignored? They cannot possibly be properly insured. And if anybody walks on the property and sees that there's a 10 lane, 15 to 100 yard pistol rifle range and another 100 to 500 yard open range, and they have a public website that, they're operating as a gun range, that if somebody were to be injured, if I'm a commercial insurer, I'm not going to insure them. It's like, well, you're not zoned, you're not in compliance to even operate this range. And then when I was in the service, if you went to a range, you had to have a medic on site. You had to be aware of fire and safety standards. And if it's too hot, you can't qualify. Those rounds are hot. And then where are these? What's being done as far as their environmental concerns? We have taped recordings. It's what if you go on their website? There's a 50 caliber. There's multiple assault rifles. There's grenades. It's not small ordnance. You're not going out there to zero your hunting rifle. And it's important that the community hears this and understands that they're not in compliance. That if something were to happen, there isn't probably arrangements being made with the hospital or emergency personnel in regard to their care or safety.
I appreciate all that, but in the end, there are a lot of legal issues, and they will have to be dealt with from the zoning board, the Plan Commission and Zoning Board office, and they are prepared to do that, and all the information you have has to go through that board itself. So that's why that is set up for, and that's your avenue, and I know it's a serious issue, and that board will have to deal with it.
Yes, and I appreciate the board acting upon that and enforcing the zoning law. And again, the purpose here that I'm presenting is that, again, that the community is aware that if they're invited with no fee, and it's obviously a commercial gun range that's not in compliance, that the community and law enforcement officers that wish to go there are doing so, against, the commission or the zoning ordinance or the law.
And my frustration is, in the meantime, but there's nothing I could do if something happens to my children. And look at the family here. This is my granddaughter. What if something happens to her? This is a soldier that has to come home to gun range next door. And this is our family. These kids can't go play in the woods that I bought. I paid for, I pay taxes on. I have a business here in Madison. They can't play outside. They can't build their forts anymore. This little girl has to stay inside all day long. Something needs to be done other than wait for the legal process. I didn't break the law. They did, and I have no rights. And this loophole is not acceptable. It's not.
This is also a copy of their website where, again, you can see their hours if you live next to a gun range from 8 to 6 p.m. in the winter and 8 to 7 p.m. in the summer. There's an obvious copy of multiple assault rifles for sale. You can see that there's 28 shooters on the line shooting automatic rifles right next to my house. You can see that there's multiple personnel with body armor on because they're going down a 500-yard range,
My children don't wear
open
body armor at
range.
home.
They have 2-day training events on an open 100 to 500-yard range. Well, there's also another pistol rifle range. There's 2 ranges on only 100 acres. You can see this picture, which is a 50 caliber rifle, sniper rifle, on display with hand grenades. This isn't zeroing in my hunting rifle.
But once again, there's just obvious legal issues, and they have to be handled the proper way. That's
Yeah.
the only way we can go forward with it.
But we're
I
doing the
understand-
proper channels. They're not helping us.
Day
Where do
2,
we go?
Day 2, steel at 100 to 500 yards. Stressed shooting drills at 100 to 500 yards. 100 acres is 697 yards by 697 yards. A 50 caliber rifle has an effective range of 2,500 yards, 25 football fields.
Where do we go? I was told on Wednesday after that was served, that's served, but there's nothing you can do about it anymore. They're going to do what they want to do. They can still fire up all these things, and as long as they're not charging, it's not breaking the law. If I call the sheriff's office, which I have many times, they do not come out. And I am not going to wait till I die, my husband dies, my father who lives with me dies, or one of my children dies before something's done. Again, I have been obeying the laws. I have a business. I obey the ordinances. I do. I follow the rules. The people who have not followed the rules, who break the law blatantly, I can't do anything about it. This is not right. And I want to know, when you say I just go through the proper channels, I'm going through it. They tell me there's nothing they can do. What can I do?
Okay, and then I'm going to make, this is a statement out of Wikipedia on the accuracy of a 50 caliber sniper rifle. When he shot a Taliban combatant at 2,430 meters or 2,657 yards. So again, my 2,500 yard comparison is actually, should really be over 2,600 yards. That's over 26 football fields in length. It's just, we're not talking about like an indoor range, or we're not talking about a small pistol range or rifle range. We're talking about 2 ranges, and one of them's 500 yards. If you shoot something 500 yards away, which is 5 football fields, and you're off by a little bit, it's not safe. And you can't tell me that there's any way on God's green earth that they're properly insured when they're not zoned properly. So what other safeties and protocols and laws are they breaking? So again, I'm not pulling these facts out of the air. They're all right here. Here's a copy for each of you.
Thank you.
But again, the thing I want to stress is, we're not taking our daddy's rifle and zeroing it in for hunting. We're not going and shooting, a pistol. I was in the Army, and I've been qualified on an M16, M60 grenades, law, which is a rocket launcher. When you shoot a 50 cal, it's either mounted on a vehicle or in a sniper team. And they're designed to take out light armor vehicles or people miles away. I mean, and you have to have a special permit, which I'm sure that they do have, because they sell guns and ammunition. But their clientele that they're focusing on isn't, simple ma and pa hunting. They're targeting, militia, military, and law enforcement as far as their range, and they're just not properly equipped, and obviously they're not compliant.
I was in the military, and I'm an avid hunter. I understand your concerns, but this is not the venue to address it, like insurance and their FFL and their merchant's license. I don't have any control over that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not going on like a duck's back, but
again, the thing I just want to bring about is public awareness, community awareness within this county and what's going on within the county. Because when somebody is hurt or, there is a fire because they're not in compliance, then it's important that this community is aware of the infractions that are in place. And if anything were to occur, since they're not zoned to do this, they're not going to be insured, and whoever is hurt or whoever's property is damaged isn't really going to have any recourse because they're not properly insured, because they're not operating in compliance to the law.
Jeff, could you have a special called meeting
Sure.
to address this immediately? It seems like
Gotta
that
give
would,
proper notice in
you
the
know,
newspaper, like tomorrow, but within the next couple of days.
gotta have
I
48
would
hours.
like not to be waiting for after any type of election, which what I was told at one point.
Yeah, 'cause normally our BZA and Planning Commission meetings are the first Tuesday of every month, but we can't call a special meeting. I do need to find out whether we have to handle this through the BZA or Planning Commission. I know that just seems like bureaucratic nonsense, but we have to do it.
Yeah, so I understand, and I operate in compliance with the law and regulations within the county,
Right.
and that's why we're bringing it to the county's attention.
Yeah.
And we appreciate the zoning commission acting in accordance with law and enforcing the law, and I feel that through the community awareness and bringing things about that changes are occurring and things are moving. So I just don't. My general concern is that if the public isn't aware, if the county's not aware that of what's going on, that it's like, oh yeah, you come over to my property and go ahead and fire, and technically we won't charge you, but we could still keep doing business as we are, and the public needs to be aware that if you're injured or hurt, you're not insured. I mean, and other things in regard to just safety. It's like, it's great. I mean, I can see the body armor on people, and I'm sure that they're acting fairly safe, but obviously if they're not in compliance, they're probably not in compliance with whatever regulations need to be in place as far as awareness for emergency personnel to take care of somebody that's shot accidentally on the range. I mean, we're 20 minutes away from everything, and if I have to pay extra money just because I'm far away from the fire department for my residential property, I'm sure that being far away from a hospital and somebody's injured, you probably have to pay more for being insured as a commercial property.
I don't have authority to call a special meeting myself. I need at least one other member of the Planning Commission to second that, but I will call them. I suspect it won't be difficult to get somebody else to agree to do that. But you're bringing up an awful lot of concerns that are totally valid.
Yeah.
But I need to stress the only thing we can address is the valid, the zoning permit,
Yes.
the conditional use permit, and the violation of that. We don't have authority to answer any concerns about insurance or environmental rights or safety. We're not empowered to do that. And it's not that your concerns aren't valid.
Yeah.
We just can't do anything about that. All we can do is enforce our zoning regulations.
Well, my general question is, let's say I have a residential property in town, and I know that there's laws in place where I can't just have like 10 vehicles parked all on my property and saying, well, I'm not really a commercial mechanic, but I have 10 vehicles on my property that I'm fixing and selling. I'm sure that there's ways in which you can enforce the law in regard to environmental compliance, and even though they're not zoned to necessarily have like an auto mechanic shop, there's general concerns in regard to public safety that I think could be addressed as well, because you don't have a 10, I mean, again, direct quote, so I don't screw this up. 50 to 100 yard pistol and rifle range with 10 lane shoot house. I mean, that's a commercial shoot house. And just say, well, I just have some friends over. Or you don't, I mean, technically, I guess you could design a 500 yard shooting range and say that, hey, I really enjoy shooting and I've got a 50 cal and that's what I want to do. And technically, they're within the law to do that. That's fine. But the thing I'm just kind of addressing is that if we're, I agree with you. It's going to be a slow, drawn-out
It is,
process.
and I apologize about that.
But
It's
I
very
just
slow.
the big thing is I just really want the community aware of what's going on, so that if someone chooses to ignore the concerns or ignore the zoning ordinance and continue to go there, especially we had friends within the law enforcement community that were going there, and they're like, oh, they're not licensed they're not zoned for this, and they were shocked because it blows my mind that somebody could just be above the law and just ignore the law. I mean, we had a committee meeting and said, no, you cannot have a gun range, and you go on there and you could see it right on the front page. It's like there's a $10 fee to shoot on their range. I mean, it's a commercial gun range. So anyway, it just again blows my mind that you develop your property and do all this stuff and just ignore the law.
If you get that in by noon, you can conceivably have one Tuesday. 48 hours, isn't it?
I think
Not
so.
counting
I can't swear.
not counting weekend.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Verify that before you do.
Yeah, but again, I got to get one other member to agree to do it. I don't have authority to call a special meeting on my own.
So,
Could you?
But I don't think that would be a problem. I'm pretty sure something,
So you'll move forward with that then?
because I can.
Thank you, sir.